Hi. Glad to talk to you about this. Love the movie at Sundance. What a fun way to just unsettle my girlfriend on a random day.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
She was like, "What are we watching?" I was like, "It's a movie about dating," and just she loved it. But like, also like
that's great. If that's all she knew, then I think that was effective. But
that's the fun of it. Is it was a kind of a fun test of like, what if I don't tell anyone about this? Because you're watching it just like I'm sure when you're making it, there's no marketing yet. You're in your brain. You're kind of going, I wonder how you get people to watch the movie without telling them too much, because the fun is figuring out like, oh shit, there's a whole other side to this.
definitely. And I just thought Mimi having this brilliant idea of putting the credits, as you know, halfway through the movie or a quarter into it was really smart and kind of really sets you up and makes you feel like you've been kind of duped in a similar way that maybe Noah has in a way. And but yeah, it's tough, right? In like an almost 2 hour movie, you want to get all the beats right. You want to kind of set up the story, and there was a lot there to tell. And again, tracking this relationship and kind of how it starts, where it's going, and the middle, which was the hardest part, and finding out kind of how much of this, how much less of that, that the balance.
Because it is, obviously some of it is very much not relatable, you hope, but also a lot of it is. Everyone has been on a good date, a bad date that they thought was good, a good date they thought was bad. Like all of that is very relatable. So to just take it, one step, two steps, maybe more than that, like further, is a real great hook, because who doesn't relate to, everyone's awful. Oh wait, this guy's great. There must be another side to it, or vice versa. I know I've been there.
Well, I think again, when you're looking at the way we meet people now, it's really tricky, isn't it?
Like
because I know the phone, right? And it's like, to quote that modern romance, I think is the book that Aziz Ansari, to quote, it's like, yeah, you got a 24/7 bar in your pocket now.
Totally.
That's what, and that's insane. That's kind of freaky, and the idea, just playing on what you said, that we have these preconceived ideas, or sometimes we see people a certain way, we don't really know them, depending also what you came out of. You're more looking, you're prone to look for the things you didn't have. Those things are your front of your mind. So like, if you see those things, you maybe are more vulnerable towards somebody, and then you don't know who they are really, because it takes a while. And it's a very, but do you get in the car with them, and do you go away for 3 days?
Yeah.
When and how,
Oh yeah, it's wild. It's shocking that we do some of the things we do. Like, what's the most likely cause of death? You. I don't know why I'm hanging out with you, but it's funny. I was thinking about, you bring up how exhausting, like the idea of like doing it this way is. I was thinking about Hot Tub Time Machine, which was like one of your early, like playing a much different villain. But there's a line in that movie where they're like, how am I going to just find me? And he goes, that sounds exhausting. Like, we imagine that now, just like occurring at another spot with someone. It's a whole other world.
It's very weird, for sure. I mean, and that's, I guess, sort of the hook of the movie. Totally. Is that idea, and where it could lead you, and then what do you do, and what do you do differently next time? Where does Noah go after this movie, and how does she approach? Will she ever trust anyone again? I mean, but again, it just depends on when you peel back certain things. Were the red flags always there?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think makes it so interesting, though, is even when you're way into, like, okay, she knows the situation, this is bad, there's still character building. And especially on your end, there's, well, why is this happening? And on his side, how do you deal with this? And how do you rationalize? Like, for him, there's still, his version of red flags. Like, who would I look to for this situation? How do I then continue to interact with her? Like, there's so much for you to do that other movies wouldn't give you.
Similarly, on his end, he's looking there are certain things that he's selecting her for, which are premeditated and thought before. But then there's other things at play for him as well, without him really being conscious of it, because ultimately, he builds trust with her in a very different way than he has with anyone else, and that's part of the demise, right? Because there is an instant thing there that is really sparking a very different way. And again, you can always make conclusions as to why, or there's enough things in the movie that can kind of point to why he's ending up the way he ends up as well. So,
and oddly, like it fits even just as an actor. You know, how many times does a director or producer have a thing in mind that you fit that, but they don't know who you are. They don't know if you're going to fit better or worse. And only in the meeting and the movie version of dating do you figure out, like, oh, I stumbled upon something greater. Oh God, this person's a monster.
Yeah, well, I think that's what, in terms of finding projects, I think as an actor, that's why I always feel like I try to look for different things, or different things that to some extent maybe will one day kind of make a director I want to work with sort of look at me differently. It just, because it's tough. You don't really know that, and that's the thing. We walk into something, we see somebody, and again, we project all kinds of things without knowing anything about them. But it also depends on what image they put forward and all that stuff. So,
right, and like you can only do so much. You can only do your part, and how someone interprets it is somewhat up to them. You can only do, I'm happy with what I did, and if you only think of me as one character, I mean, that's kind of a shame because I've done more stuff, but I'm glad you like that thing. There's nothing wrong with loving what I did, but,
no. I mean, yeah, no, I don't think so. It just depends on what it is you're after.
Yeah. You just hope that someone goes, I love him in this, so what else is he in? Oh, what's this movie, I, Tonya? What's The Last Full Measure? What's these things that, definitely went by them the first time, but maybe. When you...
I think it's... Yeah, this sort of it's very difficult to make a movie. It's also very difficult to make a good movie, and then it's very difficult to get people to see the the good movie that hopefully you've made. So there's a lot of pieces to it in a way.
Totally, but in a that's one of those things that, like, you're rolling the dice in some way. But having the movie be as good as this is, and it's literally one of my favorites this year, is a real, like, ace up its sleeve. And in a weird way, playing on Hulu, could go either way for a lot of people, but especially this week, with, a certain other movie that's large coming out, like in the theater, you'd have no chance, but at home, you're on the high of a movie. Who doesn't want to watch another movie when you just watch a good movie? There's something fun about, like, keeping that going, and that could really work in its favor.
Well, I think you're right. I think we are in a very different space now than we've been 10 years ago, certainly with the filmmaking, certainly the kind of work we've seen on television, and the blend of that the streaming world has created. And I just, again, at the end of the day, I feel like there are certain movies that really truly belong in a theater. This movie also in a theater would have been impactful because, as we've seen with the test screen audiences, we've seen people come as a community just literally respond to things. But at the same time, it can reach many more people this way as well. And so I just think it's a matter of, as long as the movie's seen, in my opinion, that's what matters. And especially if you work hard on something. And I think we also got Searchlight, which is one of the best and one of my favorite, places that has a library of movies that I grew up on and that I always, kind of aspired to be in. And so just to even be included in that kind of, like, their library is definitely a good thing.
Oh, yeah. And it's a perfect way to wrap up, because I know you got more of these, but just, this is going to have a long life, and people who are into it's going to, this week, next week, a year from now, 5 years from now, it's going to be a film people stumble on and go, the fuck, did you see this movie? And, you'll see it pop up somewhere and you'll be like, haha, I did it. There's something to be proud of about that. You should be very proud of this.
Well, I definitely am, and I appreciate you saying that. And certainly if I see you in a few years, I'll remind you of this.
We can have a very odd meal over it. Thank you so much. My pleasure.
All right, man. Thank you.